Okay, joining us now to talk more about that flexible working hours campaign, Paolo von Schirach. He is the president of the Global Policy Institute. Paolo, thanks very much for joining us.
Pleasure.
We had a chance to chat before we came out here, and the commute in Tokyo is legendary.
Yes.
You said this isn't going to be a game changer, but can it make a difference?
Well, it can if it catches up, because of course what we have to see, if now it's kind of a rolling experiment. Last year it was only, 260 firms that joined with this kind of initiative of the governor of Tokyo, and then this year it's like 700. But you know, Tokyo is I don't know how many millions, so it's not going to. It's hard to say that this is going to make a real dent in the atrocious problem of overcrowding of commuter trains. Obviously, if all these firms agree and do for a prolonged period of time to extend work hours, to stagger the beginning and the end of the work days, well, that allows the staff, the people, the office workers, to come in at different hours of the day. Some arrive earlier, breakfast in some cases provided for them, and what have you. And so this should, you know, at some point ease congestion. I think we'll have to see if this catches.
But we're talking about changing culture.
Yes.
And that is not easy. Japanese traditionally work extremely hard. And there's some speculation that by staggering these work hours, people may just come in earlier and work later.
Yeah, that's quite possible. Yes, indeed. So again, it's kind of new. So it's interesting. It's experimental in a country in which these kinds of novelties take years to be hatched and then implemented in a how can I say institutional culture that is very, very reluctant to accept new ideas and new things. So this may go somewhere. I mean, the oddity is here, if I may, that Japan, oddly enough, is lacking manpower. In other words, if you look at the demographics, if you look where Japan is headed, if you look at the number of people over 65 and all that, you would think, oh, there are not enough people, working in Japan. But when you look at large metropolitan areas like Tokyo, it's just stupendously overcrowded.
What about the fact that this is largely the brainchild of the governor,
yes,
or the mayor of Tokyo, a woman? What does it say about the workforce? It's traditionally been a male-driven workforce. Is this?
Well, I mean, if there is more flexibility, and also, by the way, telecommuting is also another novel, maybe not exactly a novelty, but let's say a modality to do office work that is encouraged. Well, that may possibly encourage more women to join the workforce. And this is already a phenomenon that's already happening. Although, much was in womenomics, I guess, was proposed that women should not only join the workforce, but also aspire to managerial positions. That hasn't quite happened. But many more women now have joined the workforce. So one could say that in some instances, flexibility, flexible work hours, and staggered, office hours may benefit women in an interesting way, encourage more of them to rejoin the ranks of the workforce in Japan.
This staggering hours has been tried in other nations, other cities. Here in D.C., people use it for the large U.S. government population employees here. What's it going to take to change that culture? Because I've talked with my Japanese colleagues before, and you talked to them about taking vacation, taking time off, knocking off for lunch. It's unheard of.
Yes. So again, noble experiment. I wish them well, because as we were discussing earlier, the congestion, the people congestion is just horrendous, and it's always been like that. It's not really improved that much over the years. This could be a way to modify all this, but it takes buy-in. It takes the leadership of major corporations to embrace this idea. And so for this is beyond being just a, by the way, limited time experiment in terms of number of days of the year in which this is offered, which is also kind of strange, because if you really want to change the culture, you don't do it in 2 weeks.
You make it institutional, exactly.
Exactly. So again, in a country which is a little bit, a little bit is a euphemism, terribly reluctant to change established rules and ways in which people expect things to be done, and when you're supposed to be there and for how long and all that. So to introduce these somewhat more American concept of flexibility and telecommuting and all that, we'll see how it works. I mean, many multinationals that that are headquartered in Tokyo have joined the program. So maybe they will, support the idea and it will take roots. We'll have to see.
Paolo von Schirach, thank you very much. Maybe they should have started something easy, like a casual Friday.
Maybe, that's right.
Thanks very much for the time.
Thank you.
And still to come on Global Business, the Hollywood